Jake Martinez stood in front of the mirror in his small cabin aboard the Starship Aurora's Dawn. He pulled at his blue diplomatic uniform and tried to make his hair look neat. His hands were shaking a little. Today was the biggest day of his life and maybe the biggest day in human history. 2. The ship had been traveling for 3 months to reach this point in space. They were here to meet the Zephyrians. For the first time, the Zephyrians were an old and powerful alien race that controlled a large part of this galaxy. If humans could make friends with them, it would change everything. Jake had been chosen for this mission because he was good at talking to people. He could make friends easily and people trusted him. But right now, he did not feel confident at all. He felt scared. A soft knock came at his door. "Jake, are you ready?" It was Lisa Brooks, the commander of their ship. She was a strong woman with short gray hair and kind eyes. Jake had worked with her for 2 years and she always made him feel better when he was worried. "Almost ready, Commander," Jake called back. He took one more look at himself and opened the door. Lisa smiled at him. "You look good, Jake. Remember, this is just a meeting. We are not asking them to marry us. We just want to talk about trade." Jake laughed despite his nerves. "Thanks, Lisa. I needed that." They walked together down the long hallway of the ship. The Aurora's Dawn was not the biggest ship in the human fleet, but it was fast and comfortable. It had been Jake's home for the past 3 months. "Tell me again about the Zephyrians," Jake said as they walked. "I want to make sure I remember everything." Lisa nodded. "They are made of crystal. They look like moving glass sculptures. They are very beautiful, but also very different from us. They have been around for thousands of years. Their culture is based on art and beauty, and they are sensitive about their appearance," Jake added. "Very sensitive," Lisa said seriously. "Other alien races have tried to make friends with them before. Most of them failed because they said the wrong thing about how the Zephyrians look. Zephyrians think it is very rude to comment on someone's body or appearance." Jake felt his stomach drop. "What if I say something wrong by accident?" "You won't," Lisa said firmly. "You are a good diplomat, Jake. Just stick to the plan. Talk about trade. Talk about friendship between our species. Do not talk about how they look." They reached the main conference room. Other members of the diplomatic team were already there. Ben Foster, Jake's best friend and fellow diplomat, waved at him. Ben was tall and thin with red hair. He always wore glasses and knew more about alien cultures than anyone else Jake had ever met. "Jake, there you are," Ben said. "I was just going over the protocol one more time." He held up a small device that showed notes and information. "What do I need to remember?" Jake asked. Ben looked serious. "First, when they enter the room, we stand up, but we do not bow. Bowing means something different to them. Second, we wait for them to speak first. Third, we never ever comment on their crystal formations, not even to say they look nice. It is considered a terrible insult." "Why is it an insult?" Jake asked. "If someone said I look nice, I would be happy. Because their bodies are sacred to them," Ben explained. "For Zephyrians, talking about someone's appearance is like talking about their soul. Only family members or very close friends can do that. When strangers do it means you are being disrespectful." Jake nodded slowly. This was more complicated than he had Thought, okay, so I just talk about business, trade routes, resources, that kind of thing. Exactly, Ben said. Keep it simple and professional. Dr. Amy Clark, the team's scientist, joined their conversation. She was a small woman with long black hair who studied alien biology. I have been reading about Zephyrian culture all morning, she said. Did you know they communicate with colors when their crystal bodies change? Color, it means they are feeling different emotions. What colors mean what? Jake asked. Blue usually means calm or neutral. Green means interested or curious. Red means angry or upset, but there are hundreds of different shades and they all mean different things. It is very complex. Jake felt overwhelmed. There was so much to remember. What if he made a mistake? What if he said the wrong thing and ruined everything for humanity? Lisa seemed to notice his worry. Jake, breathe, she said gently. You're going to do fine. The Zephyrians agreed to this meeting because they want to talk to us. They're curious about humans. That is a good sign. She is right, Ben added. If they did not like us already, they would not be coming here. They have studied our culture too. They know we are different from other alien races. How are we different? Jake asked. Dr. Clark smiled. We are more emotional than most species. We show our feelings openly. Most aliens think this is strange, but some find it interesting. The Zephyrians might be one of those groups. Our emotions are our strength, Lisa said. Humans care about things deeply. We make friends easily. We want to help others. These are good things, Jake. Do not try to hide who you are. Jake felt a little better. Maybe being human was not such a bad thing after all. The ship's communication system made a soft sound. All diplomatic team members to the conference room. Came the voice of the ship's computer. The Zephyrian vessel will arrive in 30 minutes. Jake's heart started beating faster again. In 30 minutes he would meet aliens for the first time in his life. Not just any aliens, but ones who could change the future of the human race. This is it, Lisa said. Everyone, remember your training. Be polite, be respectful, and be yourselves. Humans have something special to offer the galaxy. Today we get to show them what that is. Jake straightened his uniform one more time and took a deep breath. He was ready. The conference room on the Aurora's dawn had been prepared perfectly. The long table was polished until it shined. Fresh flowers from the ship garden sat in the center. The lights were set to be warm and welcoming. Jake sat with his hands folded, trying to look calm. Inside his heart was racing. They are here, announced Lieutenant Peters from the bridge. The Zephyrian ship is docking now. Jake looked around the room. Commander Lisa Brooks sat at the head of the table, looking confident and in control. Ben Foster was checking his notes. Last time, Dr. Amy Clark was adjusting the recording equipment that would capture this historic meeting. Everyone looked nervous but excited. Remember, Lisa said quietly, let me do most of the talking at first. Jake, you will present the trade proposals when I introduce you. Everyone else, just be friendly and respectful. The door to the conference room opened. A tall figure stepped through and Jake's breath caught in his throat. He had seen pictures of Zephyrians before, but seeing one in person was completely different. Ambassador Valara was unlike anything Jake had ever imagined. She was about 7 ft tall and made entirely of what looked like living Crystal, her body was translucent like colored glass, and it seemed to glow with its own inner light as she moved. Different parts of her body changed from deep blue to soft purple to bright silver. Light seemed to dance through her crystal form as she walked. When she turned her head, rays of light shot across the room like a rainbow. Her face was smooth and beautiful with eyes that looked like stars shining through clear water. She moved with a grace that made Jake think of flowing water or dancing flames. Behind her came 3 other Zephyrians, each one unique and beautiful in their own way. One was green and gold, another was deep red like a ruby, and the third sparkled with what looked like tiny diamonds throughout his crystal body. "Welcome aboard the Aurora's Dawn," Lisa said, standing up. The entire human team stood as well. "I am Commander Lisa Brooks. We are honored to meet you." Ambassador Valara stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice was like music with multiple tones at once. "I am Ambassador Valara of the Zephyrian Empire. We thank you for traveling so far to meet with us." Her crystal body shifted to a soft blue color as she spoke. Jake remembered that blue meant calm and neutral. "So far, so good." Lisa gestured to the chairs. "Please sit and be comfortable. We have much to discuss." The Zephyrians sat down. Carefully, Jake noticed that their crystal bodies made soft musical sounds as they moved, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. It was the most beautiful sound he had ever heard. "We are curious about your species," Ambassador Valara said. "Humans are new to this part of space. We have heard interesting things about you." "What kind of things?" Lisa asked politely. "You are said to be very emotional," one of the other Zephyrians said. His crystal body was the deep red color. "Other species find this strange, but we find it intriguing. Emotion is connected to art and beauty in our culture." Jake felt more relaxed. Maybe this would not be so difficult after all. Lisa began explaining about human culture and history. She talked about Earth and the colonies humans had built on other planets. She mentioned human art, music, and literature. The Zephyrians listened carefully, their crystal bodies shifting through different shades of blue and green. After about an hour, Lisa turned to Jake. "I would like you to meet Jake Martinez, our trade specialist. He will explain the proposals we have brought." Jake stood up, feeling all eyes on him. "Thank you, Commander Brooks." He looked at Ambassador Valara and the other Zephyrians. "We are very excited about the possibility of trade between our peoples." As Jake began his presentation, he found himself watching Ambassador Valara closely. She was sitting directly across from him, and the light in the room made her crystal body sparkle in amazing ways. When she leaned forward to look at the trade documents, the light seemed to flow through her like water. Jake had always loved beautiful things. He enjoyed art museums and concerts. He liked watching sunsets and looking at stars, but he had never seen anything as beautiful as the way light moved through Ambassador Valara's crystal form. As he talked about trade routes and resources, part of his mind was fascinated by how her body changed colors. When he mentioned something interesting, she turned a soft green. When he explained something complex, she shifted to a thoughtful purple. It was like watching emotions become visible. "These trade proposals are very detailed," Ambassador Valara said. standing up to get a closer look at the documents Jake had spread on the table. "You have put much thought into this." She walked around the table to stand next to Jake. As she moved, her crystal body caught the light from above and sent colorful reflections dancing across the walls. Jake found himself staring in amazement. The way the light bent and twisted through her form was like watching a liquid rainbow. "Your calculations for shipping routes are quite clever," she said, pointing to a chart. As she reached across the table, her crystal arm caught the light and broke it into 1,000 tiny rainbows. Jake was completely mesmerized. He had never seen anything so incredible in his entire life. Without thinking, without remembering any of his training or Ben's warnings, he spoke from his heart. "Your crystalline structure is absolutely stunning," he said, his voice full of wonder. "The way the light flows through your form, it's like watching a living masterpiece." The words left his mouth before he could stop them. The moment they were spoken, Jake realized what he had done. His face went white with horror. The room became completely silent. Ben Foster's face looked like he had seen a ghost. Dr. Clark's hand froze over her recording equipment. Commander Brooks' eyes went wide with shock and fear. Ambassador Valora stopped moving entirely. Her crystal body went completely still. For the first time since she had entered the room, the other Zalosians made a low, humming sound that Jake had never heard before. Jake felt like the world was ending. He had just insulted the most important alien ambassador in the galaxy. He had probably just ruined humanity's chance for friendship with the Zalosian Empire, all because he could not keep his mouth shut when he saw something beautiful. The silence stretched on and on. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Jake wanted to apologize, but he was too scared to make things worse. He just stood there waiting for Ambassador Valora to tell them to leave and never come back. The silence in the conference room was so thick that Jake could hear his own heartbeat. He stared at Ambassador Valora, waiting for her to explode in anger or order them to leave. But she just stood there completely still, like a statue made of crystal. Jake had never seen her stop moving before. Since the moment she entered the room, her crystal body had been flowing and changing, full of life and motion. Now she was frozen like ice. Even the colors in her body had stopped shifting. She was stuck on a pale blue that Jake had never seen before. The other Zalosians were making that low, humming sound. It was getting louder and more complex, like many voices singing different notes at the same time. Jake did not know what it meant, but it did not sound good. Ben Foster was staring at Jake with a look of complete horror. His face was white and his hands were shaking. He kept opening his mouth like he wanted to say something, but no words came out. Dr. Amy Clark had dropped her recording equipment. The small device sat on the table still, recording this disaster for history. Her eyes were wide behind her glasses, and she looked like she might cry. Commander Lisa Brooks looked like she was ready to jump up and start apologizing to save the mission. But she stayed in her chair, probably afraid that any movement might make things worse. Jake felt sick to his stomach. He wanted to run away and hide. He wanted to take back his words and start the whole meeting over. He had trained for months for this moment, and he had ruined it in 5 seconds by saying exactly what he was Not supposed to say. I'm sorry, Jake finally whispered. I didn't mean to. Ambassador Valora raised one crystal hand to stop him. The motion was slow and careful, like she was moving underwater. Her hand caught the light and sent sparkles across the ceiling. But something strange was happening too. Her crystal body, the pale blue color, was starting to change. New colors were appearing that Jake had never seen on any Zalosian before. Deep red streaks were flowing through her crystal form like rivers of fire. Then came bright gold that glowed like the sun. Silver threads appeared and disappeared like lightning. The other Zalosians stopped there, humming. They were staring at Ambassador Valora with what looked like amazement. Their own crystal bodies were starting to change colors too. The red one was turning bright orange. The green and gold one was sparkling like emeralds. The diamond-covered one was glowing so bright that Jake had to squint. What's happening, Ben? Whispered to Dr. Clark. I don't know, she whispered back. I've never seen colors like this in my research. Ambassador Valora's crystal body was now flowing through colors that seemed impossible. Purple so deep it was almost black. Gold so bright it hurt to look at. Silver that moved like liquid metal. Colors were swirling together and separating, creating patterns that looked like abstract art. Jake was confused and scared, but also fascinated. Even in this terrible moment, he could not help but think that what he was seeing was the most beautiful thing he had ever witnessed. The colors in her crystal body were like a sunset and a storm and a rainbow, all happening at the same time. Minutes passed. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The only sound was the soft music chiming that came from the Zalosians' crystal bodies as the colors flowed through them. Commander Brooks was gripping the edge of the table so hard that her knuckles were white. Jake could see that she was trying to decide whether to say something or just wait. Her military training was probably telling her to take control of the situation, but her diplomatic experience was warning her to be patient. Ben was frantically looking through his notes, trying to find any information about these colors, but Jake could see from his expression that this was completely new. Nothing in all of Ben's research had prepared them for this reaction. Dr. Clark was watching the Zalosians with the fascination of a scientist seeing something impossible. She was probably trying to memorize every detail so she could study it later, if there was a later. If they were not all about to be thrown out of Zalosian space forever. The humming sound started again, but it was different now. Instead of the low, threatening tone from before, this sounded almost like singing. The three other Zalosians were creating harmonies with their voices, and the sound was beautiful and sad and joyful, all at the same time. Ambassador Valora's colors were starting to slow down and settle. The wild swirling was becoming more gentle, but she was still showing colors that Jake was sure were not normal for Zalosians. She was glowing with soft gold and silver, with touches of deep purple and bright blue. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only 10 minutes, Ambassador Valora seemed to come back to life. She turned her head slowly to look at Jake. Her crystal eyes, which had been blank and distant, now seemed to focus on him. Jake felt like she was looking into his soul. He wanted to apologize again, too. explained that he had not meant to insult her, that he was just amazed by her beauty. But he was afraid that any words would make things worse. The other Zalosians had stopped there, singing. They were all looking at Ambassador Valora, waiting to see what she would do. Their crystal bodies were still glowing with unusual colors, but they were calmer now. Ambassador Valora opened her mouth to speak. Jake held his breath, waiting for her to tell them to leave, to say that humans were too rude and ignorant to be friends with the Zalosian Empire. But when she spoke, her voice was different. Instead of the formal diplomatic tone she had used before, her voice was soft and full of emotion. It still had multiple tones like music, but now it sounded like a song that was happy and sad at the same time. In 1,000 cycles of our history, she began and then paused. Jake waited for the rest of the sentence, the part where she would explain why humans could never be trusted. Instead, what she said next would change everything Jake thought he knew about diplomatic relations, about alien cultures, and about the power of simple honesty. Ambassador Valora looked directly at Jake with her crystal eyes that sparkled like stars. When she spoke, her voice was gentle and full of wonder. In 1,000 cycles of our history, she said slowly, no alien species has ever called our forms beautiful. Jake blinked in confusion. What do you mean? You said my crystalline structure was stunning, Ambassador Valora continued. You said I was like a living masterpiece. Do you understand what you have done? Jake's heart sank. I insulted you. I know I'm not supposed to comment on appearance. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. No. Ambassador Valora said, raising her crystal hand again. You do not understand. You did not insult me. The room was silent except for the soft musical sounds coming from the Zalosians' crystal bodies. Jake looked around at his teammates. They all looked as confused as he felt. Ben Foster was the first to speak. But our research said that commenting on Zalosian appearance was considered rude. Ambassador Valora's crystal body shifted to a warm golden color. That is correct. It is rude when other species comment on our appearance, because they always speak of us with fear or disgust. She walked slowly around the table, her crystal form catching the light and creating beautiful patterns on the walls. The Korvakians see us as frightening crystal monsters. The Deltans think we are cold and lifeless. Like rocks, the Arcelians believe we are dangerous weapons that could cut them. Dr. Amy Clark leaned forward, fascinated. They're afraid of you. All species that have met us see our crystal forms as something to be feared or avoided. Another Zephyrian said. This was the one with the ruby red crystal body. They think we are not alive because we are not made of flesh. They see our beauty as threatening. Added the green and gold Zephyrian. Sharp edges and hard surfaces frighten them. Ambassador Valora stopped in front of Jake. But you, she said, her voice full of amazement. You looked at me and saw art. You saw beauty. You saw something worthy of admiration. Jake was starting to understand. So when I said you were beautiful, I wasn't being rude. You were being honest, Ambassador Valora said, and your honesty has touched something in our hearts that we thought no other species could reach. Commander Lisa Brooks found her voice. We had no idea. Our research suggested that you were sensitive about appearance. Because you found such comments offensive, we are sensitive because we are tired of being seen as monsters, the diamond-covered Zephyrian explained. For centuries, we have met with other species and watched them recoil in fear. When they see us, they try to hide their reactions, but we can sense their discomfort. The colors in our bodies change to show our emotions, Ambassador Valora said. When other species meet us, we usually stay blue because blue is neutral and safe. We have learned not to show our true feelings because it makes others more afraid. Jake remembered the incredible colors he had seen flowing through her crystal body during her reaction. Those colors. When I spoke to you, what did they mean? Ambassador Valora's body shifted through several gentle shades before settling on a warm silver. Joy, she said simply. Wonder, gratitude. Emotions we rarely feel when meeting other species. The red meant excitement, said the ruby. Zephyrian. The gold meant happiness, the purple meant deep spiritual connection. We have never shown such colors during a diplomatic meeting, added the green one. Usually we stay blue or occasionally green to show polite interest. Ben was frantically taking notes. This changes everything we thought we knew about Zephyrian culture. Your culture is based on beauty and art, Dr. Clark said. It must be difficult when other species cannot appreciate those things about you. It is like being a musician surrounded by people who cannot hear, Ambassador Valora said sadly. We create beautiful crystal gardens on our worlds. We compose symphonies with the sounds our bodies make. We dance with light and color, but no one else understands or appreciates what we create. Jake felt a deep sadness for them. I can't imagine how lonely that must be. That is why your words affected us so strongly, Ambassador Valora explained. When you said I was like a living masterpiece, you showed us that humans might be different. You might be able to see us as we truly are. The other Zephyrians began to hum again. But this time it was clearly a happy sound. Their crystal bodies were glowing with warm, gentle colors. In our culture, art and beauty are the most important things, Ambassador Valora continued. We believe that the ability to create and appreciate beauty is what makes life meaningful. When you showed that you could see beauty in my form, you showed that humans might understand our deepest values. Commander Brooks was smiling now, so Jake's comment wasn't a diplomatic disaster. It was a diplomatic miracle. Ambassador Valora said, her crystal body sparkling with silver and gold. For the first time in 1,000 years, we have met a species that sees beauty where others see only strangeness. Jake felt relief flooding through him. I was so scared that I had ruined everything. You nearly did the opposite, the ruby. Zephyrian said. You opened a door that we thought would always remain closed. Ambassador Valora returned to her seat. But now her crystal body was constantly shifting through beautiful, gentle colors. We came to this meeting with curiosity about humans, but also with caution. We have been disappointed by other species many times before. But now we have hope, said the diamond. Zephyrian, if humans can appreciate our physical beauty, perhaps they can understand our art, our music, our way of life. Perhaps we can share our cultures in ways we never imagined possible, added the green one. Jake looked around the room. His teammates were all smiling now. The Tension and fear were gone, replaced by excitement and possibility. "So what happens now?" Jake asked. Ambassador Valora's crystal eyes seemed to twinkle with starlight. "Now we begin a conversation that should have started centuries ago." 3 hours later, the conference room looked completely different. The formal meeting had turned into something that felt more like a party between old friends. The Zephyrians were glowing with warm, happy colors, and the humans were laughing and asking questions about Zephyrian art and culture. Ambassador Valora had shown them how she could make music by changing the crystal formations in her body. Ben Foster was completely fascinated and kept asking her to do it again. Dr. Amy Clark was taking notes about how Zephyrian emotions connected to their colors. Commander Lisa Brooks was discussing the details of a cultural exchange program. But most importantly, Jake was learning that his mistake had opened up possibilities that nobody had imagined. "We want to invite a human ambassador to our home world," Ambassador Valora announced. "Someone who can appreciate our art and help our peoples understand each other better." "That sounds wonderful," Commander Brooks said. "Who did you have in mind?" All 4 Zephyrians looked at Jake. Their crystal bodies glowed with gentle gold and silver colors. "We would like Jake Martinez to be our first human ambassador," Ambassador Valora said. Jake nearly fell out of his chair. But I'm just a trade specialist. I don't know anything about being an ambassador to an alien world." "You know the most important thing," the Ruby Zephyrian said. "You know how to see beauty in what is different. That is the foundation of all good relationships between species," added the Green Zephyrian. "Understanding comes from appreciation." Ben patted Jake on the shoulder. "You'd be perfect for it, Jake. You've always been good at making friends. But what about the trade negotiations?" Jake asked. Ambassador Valora's crystal body sparkled with amazement. "The trade agreements are already decided. When you showed us that humans can appreciate beauty, you proved that our species can work together. Details are just paperwork now." Dr. Clark looked up from her notes. "This is incredible. In one afternoon, we've gone from a simple trade meeting to a full cultural alliance." "It is more than that," Ambassador Valora said seriously. "Jake's reaction has shown us something we need to share with the rest of the galaxy." "What do you mean?" Commander Brooks asked. The Diamond Zephyrian spoke up. "For 1,000 years we have been isolated because other species fear or misunderstand us. We thought this was just the way things had to be. But humans have shown us that isolation is not necessary," Ambassador Valora continued. "If one species can learn to see beauty in what is different, maybe others can too. We want to work with humans to teach other species about appreciation and understanding," the Ruby one said. "Together we might be able to build bridges between many different kinds of life." Jake was amazed. "You want humans to help you make friends with other aliens. We want humans to help us teach the galaxy about the beauty of diversity," Ambassador Valora said. "Your species has a gift that we have never seen before." "What gift is that?" Lisa asked. "Wonder," Ambassador Valora said simply. "Humans look at new things with wonder instead of fear. You see possibilities instead of threats. You find beauty in what others find strange." Over the next few hours, they planned what would become the most important diplomatic mission in human history. Jake would travel to the Zephyrian home world not just as an ambassador, but as a student of their art and culture. He would learn about their crystal gardens, their light symphonies, and their color dances. But more importantly, he would help create a new kind of diplomacy. Instead of just talking about trade and politics, human and Zephyrian diplomats would work together to help other species appreciate each other's unique beauty. We will start with the Korvakians. Ambassador Valera explained. They are a warrior species that values strength, but they also have a tradition of battle songs that is quite beautiful. And the Deltans create amazing mathematical art, added the green Zephyrian. If we can help them see the art in our crystal formations and help us understand the beauty in their equations, we might all become friends. Jake felt excited and nervous about his new role. What if I say something wrong again? Then you will probably make another breakthrough. Ben laughed. Your honesty is exactly what makes you perfect for this job. Dr. Clark had an idea. We should create a training program for other human diplomats, teach them to look for beauty and wonder in alien cultures instead of just focusing on politics and trade. Excellent idea, Commander Brooks agreed. Jake's approach could change how humans interact with all alien species. As the meeting came to an end, Ambassador Valera stood up to make a final announcement. Today, humanity has given us something precious. You have given us hope that we are not alone in appreciating the beauty of the universe. What have we given you in return? Jake asked. You have given us the chance to share our greatest treasures, she said, her crystal body glowing with rainbow colors, art, music, beauty, and wonder. These are gifts that become more valuable when they are shared. And you've given us a new way to explore the galaxy, Commander Brooks added, not just as explorers or traders, but as friends who can appreciate the incredible diversity of life. Jake looked around the room at his teammates and his new Zephyrian friends. 6 months ago, he had been just a trade specialist worried about making a good impression. Now he was about to become humanity's first ambassador to an alien world, and possibly the first in a new kind of diplomat that the galaxy had never seen before. When do we start? He asked. Ambassador Valera's crystal eyes sparkled with starlight. We start now, Jake Martinez. We start with wonder, and we see where it takes us. As the Aurora's dawn prepared to escort the Zephyrian ship back to their homeworld, Jake realized that his accidental compliment had done more than save a diplomatic mission. It had shown that humanity's greatest strength in the galaxy might not be their technology or their courage, but their simple ability to find beauty and wonder in the infinite diversity of life. And that was a gift worth sharing with the stars.